Hi and welcome back. Today I'm going to make two different things. The first thing is sloppy joe mix and the second one is tomato soup. So I just started out with cutting up my tomatoes and some garlic and I smoked it for a few hours. So now it's really tasty and the tomatoes have released a lot of water. And then I'm just going to blend it up in my Vitamix to make it really smooth. And I'm using my big 18-liter pot, so every time I have blended up 2 liters, I'll just put it into that big pot. And now I'm going to take all of the garlics out of the paper, and it's a little easier now because they have been heated in the smoker, so they shrink in a little, so it's easier than if they were fresh. And I'm also going to blend up all of the garlic. And the sloppy joe will be kind of a mix between a barbecue sauce and the enchilada sauce that I did last week, if you see on the consistency of the sauce. So it won't be too thick and it also won't be too runny. And now I'm cutting up some more fresh tomatoes, and because it's in the end of the season, I'm going to save a lot of the seeds. So I just take all of the tomatoes that I want to grow next year and I'm pressing out the seeds and putting them onto a coffee filter, where I also wrote down the name and the year. So this is just how it looks, and then I will set them off to dry for a few days and then they are ready for next year. And it's really important to take off all of the seeds from the cutting board and the knife so that you don't mix them together, because then next year you won't know if it's the one or the other tomato that you have saved the seeds from. They look really much alike when they first come out of the tomato, even though that some of them have different colors and so on. And this is how they all look, and I will just set them to dry on this cooling rack for a few days and then they are ready to storage. And these are some of the dried chilies. If you go back and watch the enchilada sauce video, you can see how I did this. So I just took a lot of chilies into a big bowl and poured on some water just to make sure that they will all get really soft, so that I could remove the stems and all of the seeds. I don't think that normally you would put so many chilies into a sloppy joe, but I like the taste and the color, and when I blend them up they will act just like a tomato paste. So I'll just put in some of the chilies and then some tomatoes and some homemade ketchup. So I don't like to use store-bought ketchup. This is some ketchup that I made a few years ago and we haven't eaten so much of it, so I'm just using a lot of the bottles for the sloppy joe mix. And here you can see just how thick and delicious it looks after I've blended it. So it's just like a really thick tomato paste. I'm also not using store-bought mustard, so I'm just putting in some mustard seeds and I will blend them up with some of the ketchup and so on. And now I'm going to heat that big pot up while I will continue with the tomato soup. So I'm also growing a lot of pumpkins, but I just saw the other day that some animal has gotten into this one, and I don't want to let it go to waste. So I just cleaned it really well, and now I'm going to cut it up, and I will just remove all of those eaten spots. And also the seeds I will remove and give to the chickens. And then I'll cut it into smaller cubes and into my pressure cooker. So I will steam it for 6 minutes in there. I will use this pumpkin in my tomato soup to give it a little more sweetness and creaminess. So now I just filled up my pressure cooker, and I will put in about a cup of water and then set the timer for 6 minutes, and then they are ready to be blended up. And while the pumpkin is in the Instant Pot, I will cut up some onions, both some white and some red ones, and some chilies, and I will also fry this up for the sloppy joe mix. And now my timer just went off for the Instant Pot, so I can remove the pumpkin, and I will put it into a sieve, not a colander, just because it's so soft that if there's bigger holes, it will just push out. So I just put it in here to remove the water and to let it steam off some of the extra moisture. And while it's cooling down a little, I will cut up a lot of bell peppers in different colors and some more chilies, and I will also fry this in a moment. So all of the blended tomatoes and chilies are boiling away in the big pot, and now I'm going to fry the onions in some olive oil. I'm also putting in some vinegar. This is just normal vinegar without any other flavors, and the next one is apple cider vinegar, and I will link a recipe down in the description, but I'm always changing everything, so I'll also put down what I have changed and which ingredients I put in and the approximate amounts of everything. I'm also putting in some dark balsamic vinegar and some light one. And if you're eating keto, just be aware that there are some more sugars in these two vinegars compared to the other ones. But I'm using such a little amount to this very big pot, so in each portion it won't matter, I feel. Now I'm cutting up some more chilies from my greenhouse and some more of the bell peppers. So I really like different colors and taste of different kinds of chilies that are not too hot. I'm also cutting up some fresh garlic to use. We had that smoked garlic before that I blended, and the fresh one is giving a whole other taste than the smoked one, because the smoked one will be a lot sweeter and this one will be more like really garlicky tasting. And I'm just putting those into the onions that are almost finished frying up, because the garlic should not be in the heat for so long, or else they will get a little bitter. And the frying process will also bring up a lot of flavor and sweetness from the onions. Now I'm going to put in some Worcestershire sauce to the big pot. That will also give a lot of flavor. And now I'm starting to put in all of my spices, and I will always start out with some salt. And it's best to do this in the end, so if some of the sauce has evaporated, it won't be too salty. If you put the salt in from the beginning, this could be saltier than you would like. I also put in some black pepper, and this is just some really dark chili powder. Now I'm just mixing it all, and then it's really good to taste it several times to make sure that it has the right taste. This is some erythritol, so I'm not using sugar, I'm using the erythritol just to make sure that it's really low carb, and it will bring out some of the sweetness from the tomatoes. And now the onions are going in. And now I'm ready to fry up all of the peppers, and they won't take too long because they should not get too soft, because in the water bath it will also boil for a long while. And all of those colors are just so pretty. Now I'm going to start up my water bather. So I will put in a lot of water, and then I will heat that water up. I fill it about 1/3, and then when I put it in my jars, I will see if I will need some more water. I'm also putting in some white vinegar just to make sure that all of that lime doesn't sit in my pot or on my jars when they're finished. Now I'm putting my peppers into the big pot. They just fried up for a few minutes, and now I'm almost ready to put it into my jars. And this pot is really heavy. There can be 18 liters in it, and it's almost full. And I'm just carrying it out here to my water bath canner, and then I will fill all of my jars. and then just wipe off all of the rims and put on the lid, and then they are ready to go into the water bath canner. And I will process these for about 20 minutes. And because that the sauce is really hot, I also reheated the water in my water bath canner, just so that the temperatures is most alike, so that I won't break my jars and so that it will heat up in the same amount of time. I just needed a little more water, so I just boiled some in my electric kettle and I poured that on top. And now I'm ready to put on the lid and water bath these. So now I can go on with my tomato soup, and I will start up with the pumpkin and blend that in my Vitamix. I'm also putting in some tomatoes that I have thawed, so they have released a lot of water, and that will make it a little easier to blend it up. I'm also using some whole cloves, so I'll just blend those as well, so it will just get like powder. And this is how pretty it looks now that it is all blended up. And I'll just put that in my big pot where I just made the Sloppy Joe mix in. So no need to wash everything between the sauces. I also have some different kinds of broth, and when I made some pulled pork, I have some barbecue thing, and I just had all of these boxes in my freezer, so I thawed them, and now I'm going to use it in the soup to bring out some more flavor. One of the boxes, there was also a lot of beef tallow from when I made bone broth a while ago, and I will just fry the vegetables in that fat instead of in olive oil. Now I'm cutting up some more fresh tomatoes and blending them, and then they will just go into the big pot. And in the meantime, the Sloppy Joes have been water bathed for about those 20 minutes, so I can remove the jars, and then I will put in the remaining jars that won't fit in the first go around. And I just put a towel on top of those jars to keep them warm, because now the water in the pot is really hot. You could also put in a little cold water just to make sure that there's not too big of a difference in temperatures. So this is my second batch, and now onto the soup again. I'm just boiling the big pot, and this is the beef tallow that I'm going to fry my veggies in. And I'm using some garlic and red onions, some bell peppers, and some carrots. And now I'm at that point where I can season my soup. So I start out with the salt, and then some black pepper, some cumin, some paprika, oregano, basil, and thyme. And then I'm just mixing this around and going to taste it a few times just to make sure that it's how I like it. Now I'm just frying up the rest of those veggies, and then they will go into the big pot in a while. In the tomato soup, I will also put in some tomato paste, so I will fry that up in a moment just to bring out some of the flavors and to remove some of the acidity. And the garlic and the peppers are going in now because they won't need to fry up for that long. And once again, I'm using some of my dark balsamic vinegar. And a little of the white one as well, and they are a little sweeter than other vinegars, so they will bring out some more of the sweet flavor in the soup. I'm also just using a little erythritol to cut off that acidity from the tomatoes, so this will give it a really nice taste. And I like just to fry it up with the veggies before it goes into the big pot. And now that the veggies and the tomato paste is fried up, I can put all of that into my big pot, and then my soup is almost ready now. And be sure to taste it many times before you're going to can it up, because once you did that, you cannot put any more flavors in. And I felt that it just needed a little more oregano, so that's what I put in now. And then I'll just taste it again, and then I'm ready to can it up. And I got some help from Preben. He took out the pot for me because it was so heavy. It was even heavier this time than the first one. So that was really nice of him. And I'm going to put it into the jars, and then I will water bath it. If you have a pressure canner, you can also use that, but I don't. It's not possible to get one in Europe at all. So I'm just water bathing it for 1 hour, and it's not dangerous or anything. And as I told you in the last video, it's just important to reheat it for at least 10 minutes before you eat it. And of course I will always do that with a soup anyway. So this is how many fits in there from these kind of jars, and this is the end result. So I got a lot of yummy soups and sloppy joes. And these are just the tomato seeds that have dried for a few days, so now they are ready for storage and they won't mold or anything. And these are some chili seeds that I also took out of my chilies, and I just wrote on the paper which kind it is. So this is all for this time, and thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and maybe you want to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at Vesters Farm Life. Bye bye.